Hi, thanks for joining our presentation. Sticks, Ropes, Land is a project that came out of an ongoing research collaboration between Jean Chisholm, Charlotte Falk, and myself, Laura Kozak. We are based in Vancouver, Canada, and affiliated with Emily Carr University. We integrate principles adapted from architecture, urban design, and community engagement practices. In the last year, we've collaborated with land trusts, municipalities, Indigenous social service organizations, and schools to develop prototyping methods for site-specific interventions in public space. Stewardship, incremental change, and place-based knowledge are defining values in our work. Through our research, we've found that participatory design and community consultation practices often tokenize participants' input, limiting the depth of information shared, leading to disconnected understandings of site, and perpetuating hierarchical structures between designers and communities. We see this dynamic as one of many consequences of colonial power structures and dispossession, which in Canada have broad implications for land use and what's determined to be public or private. A key focus of our research has been to recognize how the concept of public space is defined and upheld by colonial systems, both legal and cultural, and to reconsider this premise. Our project investigates strategies and methods for working with materials that reposition place-based knowledge holders, or community stewards, into the role of highly qualified leaders with deep understandings of localized needs, and shifts designers into modes of active listening and being led by. By embedding values of reciprocity, care, and responsibility to the land into our design process, our intent is to serve place-based communities while co-developing alternative approaches to participatory public space design. This work took place in the urban core of Prince George, a city of 78,000 people located in northwestern Canada. Prince George is the largest city in its region and is located on the traditional territory of the Lheidli T'enneh. Many of the conditions of this site are common to northern communities across Canada, including a history of displacement, a concentration of social service organizations, and a boom-bust cycle of resource extraction industries.
Last year, our team hosted a series of participatory workshops in Prince George that engaged local communities to use simple materials, things like strings, ropes, sticks, and plants, to generate site-specific responses to public spaces and to convey a deep and sophisticated place-based knowledge. Story Sticks was our first iteration of this kind of participatory, material-based approach for talking about public space. With this workshop, we wanted to explore methods that can meaningfully give agency to children, who are important members of the community that are often left out of public planning processes. We invited 2 local classes of 10 to 12-year-old students to create walking sticks that were intended to help them share their own stories and give them a better understanding of how to navigate public space. Using an assortment of rudimentary materials, each student picked a walking stick and decorated it in response to open-ended prompts. Some of these prompts lent themselves to tangible physical outcomes, like making a tool that could help them in their life right now, and other prompts led to more abstract thinking and expression, and students used textures and colors to tell us stories about themselves, where they've been, and where they'd like to go. The students were highly engaged and enthusiastic to work with these materials, and the sticks quickly became expressive, unique stand-ins for these resourceful young people. By using material-based making as a method of self-expression, the students were able to quickly make their own stories physical and tangible. And as they began to share the stories of their sticks, it immediately became clear that these bright young people had many thoughtful insights to offer about the places they're from, and that the sticks provided them a way for them to express their individual and collective relationship to the land and built environment. After reflecting on the students' stories and makings, a growing concern emerged among us, the designers and facilitators of this workshop. How do we avoid tokenizing the students' voices and perspectives? And how do we compel municipalities and other institutions of power to address the place-based rights of these students in a meaningful way that doesn't perpetuate existing power dynamics? To move forward in answering these questions, we needed to interrogate our own understanding of public space, design, and planning. More standardized and universalized approaches to participatory design and community consultation often rely on problem-solving tropes and extractive research methods, which often perpetuate the hierarchies and dominant power structures of their Eurocentric origins, and continue colonial acts of epistemological displacement and erasure. We are now actively working on creating opportunities to build collective responsibility, reciprocity, and care with the land, and explore processes and partnerships in Prince George that support the unsettling of colonial practices in relation to land and space.
Building from story, sticks, and reading and walking, we refined our approach for collaborating with local knowledge holders or community stewards. Story ropes happened over a weekend with a group of 13 people, and everyone within the group knew at least one other person. The group's small scale and prior relationships were designed to increase space for openness and reciprocity. Our first evening together was spent eating, making, and conversing. Upon arrival, participants were greeted with tables of rudimentary materials: rope, string, leaves, and twigs. We explained that everyone would make a section of rope in response to a series of prompts. Where are you from? Where have you felt really welcome or comfortable? What is a concern you have? We emphasized that the activity was low pressure and flexible, and we took part as well. Our participation helped reduce the implicit hierarchy between facilitator and participant, giving way for greater epistemic and social equality. While making, we shared a meal, and the room quickly filled with laughter and banter. We then gathered in a circle to share the stories behind our ropes. We learned about each other's past, current practices, and hopes for the future, with everyone quickly easing into a very open and honest kind of sharing. This openness and willingness created a space where many felt safe to be vulnerable, to share their stories and concerns with one another. The next morning, everyone was invited to pick a site of interest, care, or concern to form part of a guided walk through downtown Prince George. Together, we visited places of creativity, of care, unseen potential, history, and grassroots efforts. After discussion at each site, we paused to connect our ropes together. This simple gesture helped to ground everyone's personal stories and lived experiences to place. Story ropes' acts of making, walking, and sharing generated new and impactful relationships and knowledge transfer. We all came to better know each other and to better understand the places along our walk. Sticks, ropes, land prototypes ways for community stewards to meaningfully contribute to the design of public space, particularly for those who are marginalized or tokenized by universalized participatory design processes. Through activities like story sticks and story ropes, we learned how contributions of place-based knowledge, shared through acts of making and storytelling, can enrich the efficacy of a design research process. A story shared by a local individual about seasonal weather, localized cultural habits, or invisible history might take ages to discover through typical community consultation methods. A kind of place-based accountability disappears when designers and decision-makers are distanced from the place and the people they are intending to serve. By using processes rooted in, as Anishinaabe scholar Leanne Simpson calls, the hard work of being present, with face-to-face and place-based interactions, empathy and shared understandings are pollinated between everyone involved, inviting a pluralistic understanding of place. Trust is built and accountability is increased, leading to generative and supportive relationships. Through our ongoing research, we aim to further develop these approaches to public space design. We continue to question what it means to do place-based work from afar, and many other questions tied to fostering values of reciprocity and care, as well as considering what it means to do work during this pandemic.